Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 99, How to Reframe Our Understanding of Why Children Act Out. So today I have a very special guest, Leslie Belvins, who is a former teacher, trained school psychologist, and now a licensed psychologist who specializes in young children. And she has a very good understanding of behavior and why children act the way they do. She has some really, really good tips for us, especially in this time where both teachers and students are struggling with trauma and emotional health and just everything being really, really hard. So I'm excited to have her, and I hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Hey, so I am really looking forward to today's show because I had such a great conversation with Leslie, and I think that it's going to be really beneficial to you, especially if you are in the classroom and all the things have piled up, and on top of that, you are dealing with a child or children that are really, it's really hard right now. You know, it's one thing when we've got everything running okay, or at least normal, and we are, doing our daily thing, and we have a challenging situation arise. But when we are already overloaded and we are feeling like we are to our breaking point, and then we, something new comes in, and it represents or presents this obstacle or this challenge, and we just don't know how we're going to deal with it. I think sometimes it's hard for us to look at it in the same light that we normally would, because I know that teachers are care about their students, and they want to make an impact. And even on the hardest children, those kids need us the most. But sometimes it's really difficult, and it's okay if you're feeling like it's difficult. So I hope that this episode helps you and gives you some tips, and maybe helps you to reframe the way that you're feeling or thinking about why children misbehave. So let's get started with the show. So I'm so excited today to have Leslie Belvins. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's correct.
Here, she is a former teacher trained as a school psychologist, and now she is a licensed psychologist specializing with young children. And she has just a wealth of information to share with us on behavior and what we can do in situations where we're struggling with that in our classrooms. And I'm just so happy to have her here today. So Leslie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm super happy to be here.
I'm really excited because I know that we're having a really hard time right now in schools. Teachers are having a really hard time because it's hard. It's very hard. But we're also, I want us to make sure that we're being empathetic to the situations that are coming our way, and that our students are struggling. They're struggling emotionally, and sometimes they're coming with some really huge baggage. And what can we do in this situation? So Leslie, first of all, will you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So after college, I joined Teach for America, which is a program that chooses students right after college to go into a school that is pretty underprivileged. I taught in Baton Rouge, and I taught special education, middle school math, for 2 years, and that really drove me to want to support systemic change in education so that children were getting everything that they needed. This was right after Hurricane Katrina, so I had a lot of children who had PTSD from that, and a lot of children who were living in poverty. I had children who were 16 and in 7th grade. And
Wow.
there were just a lot of different things going on there that didn't feel good, and I really wanted to make a difference. So then I worked in the state of Louisiana's Department of Education under a school psychologist doing research. And there, it was really eye-opening. I mean, the school psych there was brilliant. And I remember one day specifically, we were looking at the data for a program that I had often referred my older students, my overage students to as a teacher. And the school psych was basically showing me data saying that those children that go to that program drop out of high school.
Wow.
The program was actually having worse outcomes than if those children had stayed in their home school.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just feeling so defeated that day. And what I took away from that was that we as teachers have to make choices that are based on evidence.
Mm-hmm.
We have to really look at the data and understand the choices that we make every day. That is life-altering choices. I remember a teacher friend of mine who I love to death. What she said one time was, we're not making life or death decisions. And
We
I,
are.
oh, we are, we absolutely are. And I know, especially for the population that I taught, every day could have been the day that they were expelled and they might not ever come back.
Yeah.
And so after I worked at the Department of Education, I wanted to go on to get my PhD because I really wanted to understand how to help children, like legit, do this strategy. It works. I wanted to be able to say that to a parent, say that to a teacher. And so I got my PhD in school psychology. I also earned my board certification in applied behavioral analysis. So I'm a behaviorist. And what that means is that I believe in looking at the environment and having the support system around that child make changes to the environment so that the learner can increase the efficiency in which they're learning. So if you have a kid who just isn't picking up on the rules, who is still acting out, then the easiest thing to do is to assume that you have the power to support that child and you can do things that day and switch them up a little bit, and that kid will get better. And so I come from kind of an empowerment perspective.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. I love that. That makes total sense to me, especially like having like experienced like being like the behavior person, but almost in a like wanting it to be in like a negative way. And I think that makes so much sense. So I want to even start with that because that is really making me think, like even changing some of those environmental things and thinking that you do have the power to make it different. And not my first instinct is I want to get this kid out of my class, or I want this person to leave, because that can be so damaging to kids, especially when they already feel like they don't belong. And then to have on top of that be reminded constantly that they don't belong. So what can we do when we have situations where we've got kids that are like screaming in teachers' faces or throwing furniture or refusing to do what is asked of them? What are some like environmental things that we can do to change? Like one of the things that I actually created a cool down spot, like kit, so that there was like a space for them to go in their classroom, and they had different activities, even with like some heavy work and then some other activities they could do, like some choice to help. And I know that teachers have said that that's been really helpful. And I created it actually for my daughter who was nannying at the time, and she had a child, like she was working with a child that was having some real anger issues and a hard time talking about what she was feeling. And so I created it for that specific thing, and it worked. It like really helped a lot. So I know that's one thing, but like, can you speak a little bit more towards that?
Sure. I think first and foremost, whoever the caregiver is, whether it's the teacher or the parent in that situation, you have to give yourself some self-compassion. You have to give yourself some space to really acknowledge your own needs. If you're not doing that, I think it's completely realistic that you may be acting in a way that wouldn't promote the greatest amount of change for that kid, or could lead to unintended consequences. Like maybe it changes that kid's behavior in the moment, but it's not necessarily teaching that kid adaptive behavior over the long term and meeting the goals that you have for that kid. Or maybe you yell, right? And that's not in line with your own values. I am really big in living in line with your values. I do acceptance and commitment therapy, and that is essentially the language version of applied behavioral analysis. And it's, to me, it's a way of life. It's not even just a therapy. It has totally changed my life. I try to live it. I'm always moving towards it, but you can't be perfect at anything, right? So it's all about identifying your values and understanding that your thoughts and feelings are always in play. So you're noticing them and then still committing to move towards your values, while accepting things that are really difficult in your everyday life. And so I think in that situation that you bring up, you have to notice that you're probably frustrated. When I get screamed at, someone's in my face, that's frustrating. I might even feel, if I have a trauma history, I might even feel threatened. You know, there's all kinds of things that you might feel. So acknowledging that and giving yourself some self-compassion is essential. I think it's also important, and teachers know this, every year you're going to have a kid or two who needs to have a preventive plan. And this is, I think, where, you know, behaviorism has really done a lot of good. Essentially, applied behavioral analysis is kind of like the physics of behavior. We've really boiled it down into just a really simple equation. You have the antecedent, which is the stimulus that triggers the behavior, and then you have the consequence. Behavior is maintained by the consequence. And so, I mean, there's a lot more complexity to it, but if we get to the simplest form, there it is. Whenever you're thinking about an intervention, you can do a preventive intervention where you're focused on the antecedent or the stimulus. And then you can do a consequence-based intervention. So you're changing the outcome that the behavior gets. And so if that kid comes up into your face and is screaming, maybe you don't respond anymore. I think that that's going to be a very, very hard thing for most kids to, or most teachers or parents to do, just because that's really overwhelming and overstimulating for most adults. So my recommendation in situations like that is going to be an antecedent-based intervention. So prevention. Really good interventions go to the function of the behavior. So for your children, you want to look at what need that behavior is trying to address. Is that kid overstimulated? Is that kid needing a break either from work or peers or whatever it might be? Is that kid needing food? Is that kid needing sleep? Is that kid needing attention? A lot of times as adults, we think when a kid needs attention, that's a bad thing. That kid is being too needy. But as humans, we're social beings, and attention is essential. And so whenever you hear someone say, oh, he just wants attention, yep, probably does. And so let's give it to him. And so with an antecedent intervention, the nice thing is that you're addressing that child's need and you're teaching that child to more adaptively get their needs met. So to be more mature, basically, right? And so before that kid engages in the maladaptive behavior, the screaming, let's say that you notice the kid is starting to go, so they're starting to growl at their seat, and you know they're about to stand up, push their desk, and come at you. You walk over to that kid and you say, buddy, I can see you're growling and I can tell you're getting frustrated. So I just labeled their emotion for them. And I want you to go take a break for a few minutes until your body feels calm. And so you do that preventively. That's an antecedent intervention. So that's a really long-winded way of answering.
No, that's great. That's very helpful. That is really helpful. I know that's very helpful for teachers because a lot of people don't know what to do in situations like that. And I think that I think sometimes, at least for me, I know that like pride has gotten in the way at times where I've been like, I can't let them talk to me like this in front of all the
Right.
other students. And you get this, and you allow the rest of that noise to like cause you to react in a way that you're, at least for me, that I haven't been proud of. And even like the yelling, like that would be, for me, that would definitely be a trigger that would make me feel really scared and
Yeah.
intimidated. And that is like, that would be hard. That would be a hard thing to respond to. So I think that makes sense. I think what you said makes sense. And then I'm thinking about another situation where that same particular student was like, they were making paper airplanes or something like that when they were supposed to be doing some kind of math thing. And like how teachers respond to that, like how they respond to like the student doing the opposite or doing something that has nothing to do with what the initial directions or goal was.
Yeah. Um, so to get to those sort of off-task behaviors that
Mm-hmm.
just feel annoying, right? And they don't, I think a lot of times we think, oh, the function seems really clear. Like
Mm-hmm.
we can tell just by what the behavior looks like that it's either attention maintained or the kid needs a break or the kid has trauma history or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But what the research says is that we actually can't. It's very difficult to be accurate in knowing what the function of the behavior is just by looking at the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And to give you an example, I could slam my hand down on the desk and you might think I'm angry, but I
Mm-hmm.
also might slam my hand down on the desk whenever I finally remembered the name of that song I've been trying to remember for the last 3 days. So it could
Mm-hmm.
also be excitement. And that's why we have to be really careful in assuming we know why somebody's done something
Yeah.
because our behaviors look very similar in different circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that we do in order to honor not being able to read other people's minds is
Mm-hmm.
whenever a kid is off task, not assuming that they're being non-compliant on purpose. The
Yes.
first step is to make sure that they know how to do what they need to do. And I'm just going to like really caution here because I bet every single teacher said, nope, I know they know how to do it. I saw them
Yeah.
do
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
This is the requirement that I say to my parents that I work with is if you think that they know how to do it, the goal line is that they have done it at least 3 times in different settings.
Mm.
And so if you think that they know how to do that math worksheet,
Mm-hmm.
then they should have been able to do each type of problem on
Mm-hmm.
that math worksheet across at least 3 different days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seeing them do one math equation one time
Doesn't mean they
ever
can do it. Yeah.
doesn't mean they can do it, right? And
Yeah.
then I think it also gets especially confusing in the classroom because children with language
Yes,
disabilities.
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking about kids that have dyslexia. I'm like, it's very inconsistent. It doesn't always, it might look like they can do it, but the fact that they're using so much of their brain, it's exhausting. So sometimes they can't do it. And to just assume, well, they've done it before means they can do it again. Not necessarily.
Exactly, exactly. So one of the things that we do in school psych, if you guys have a school psychologist who can come in and do this for you, is a can't do, won't do assessment.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's where you come in and, you make the situation, you remove a lot of that complexity from the situation. So you have the kid one-on-one, you have the task that the teacher is trying to get the kid to do, and you offer the kid pretty much anything to get the
Mhm.
kid to do it. And if
Mhm.
the kid can do it, that means they can do it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you're figuring out what the situation is as far as if they can't do it versus they just won't do it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I kind of want to jump back a little bit to the other situation where if the behavior starts to become a little bit more aggressive,
Mhm.
um, with those antecedent versus consequence types of interventions, I think it's important to recognize too with emotions on behalf of the teacher and the parent that if you do get frustrated, or there is a sense of pride involved, or all those normal human emotions we all experience in those situations, even if it is just that the kid is throwing paper airplanes again, and so you're getting frustrated and you're sick of it and you want it to stop, that consequence interventions, like telling the kid that they have to go to the office, or giving the kid extra assignments as a punishment procedure, that's a consequence intervention. They tend to have much more poor outcomes, and they're not instructive. So they're going to lead to the child not learning how to do the behavior that you need the kid to do. There's nothing instructive about them, okay? And then they also tend, if the kid has any kind of difficulty with managing anger or anything like that, you're just adding fuel to the fire. So it could be more dangerous to do that. So it's really much more safe and therapeutic to do an antecedent intervention.
That makes so much sense. I think that makes so much sense. So what are some more antecedent or interventions? Like what are some other things that you can do?
I think the very best thing that you can do is language building. And so think of this as building the child's adaptive skills. Whatever that behavior is that the kid is doing, what is the alternative behavior you'd rather the child be doing? Or what is the acceptable alternative behavior? So if the kid is getting distracted by peers and keeps talking to peers, teach the child to say, Miss Smith, I keep getting distracted by my peers. Can I please move to the back corner so that I can do my work without getting distracted? That's a super adaptive way to ask for the kid to get their needs met. It's also teaching that child metacognition. They're starting to notice their own thinking process, so that as they go through school, they're going to have much better success. Now, you'll have to prompt the kid in the beginning to do that, right? They don't know how. You'll have to even prompt them to notice that they're being distracted by their peers. And you'll have to provide the space for them, right? So there's all these little educational parts to teaching this behavior intervention. But every single time the kid engages in any single part of it, you get to praise the child for that. And that is maintaining your relationship with the child. That's making you feel good. That's making the kid feel good. That's adding fuel to the child's desire to become more adaptive in your classroom with you. That's helping the child to want to stay in school. That's helping the child to want to learn.
Which is ultimately what you want them to do. So, and when we just pile on the consequences and the negative part of it, I have yet actually to even see that work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. The reason why punishment doesn't work, so in the research, punishment works when it is done correctly. The reason why punishment doesn't work in the real world is that nobody does it correctly. I as a BCBA, board certified behavior analyst, know how to do punishment correctly, but in the real world, I don't do it correctly. So I have this spoiled little cat sitting beside me, and she drives me crazy when she's awake. And sometimes I get really frustrated, and I will just sit there and be like, squirrel, please stop, please stop, please stop, please stop. And so I'm just getting on to her, right? And her problem behavior is that she meows. It's like we're having a conversation.
Yes, mine does that.
My sister thinks that I'm a crazy cat lady. She's like, you literally have a conversation with your cat. And the thing is that I get to the point where I'm yelling at her and I'm like, you've got to stop. You're driving me crazy. But it doesn't work. I'm not using punishment correctly. Whenever I finally calm down and I reflect on my values and I say, you know what, I know it's hard, but I am going to engage in the intervention plan that is better, that works, and I'm going to do that. And so I start doing it. Literally, squirrel's behavior changes immediately. It's insane. It works so well.
That's crazy. What do you do? Because my cat does that. She literally meows to me like we're having a conversation. And
Yeah.
I get, and like I've done that. Like I've yelled. I'm like,
Yeah.
be quiet. It's like I can't take it anymore. I'm like, Timo, that's my cat's name. I'm like, Timo, I can't. And I know like I don't, that's not with my values. I don't like to yell. So
Yeah.
like I'm like, that doesn't fit with my value system.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
So what I do is I wait for 10 seconds of silence and
Mhm.
then I start talking to her. And then as soon as she meows,
Wow.
I stop talking and I wait for another 10 seconds of silence. So in the beginning, Squirrel will meow pretty consistently for another couple of minutes and then she'll take a break. And as soon as that break goes, it's like in my brain, because I've done so many interventions with children,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
know you're the same way, that I just feel like the timer immediately starts in my head
Yes.
and I just
Uh-huh.
notice the pause and then I can do it. And so I would say within about 4 minutes, she's silent.
She's silent.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. No, and it
Silence is
has I'm
beautiful.
it like I'm it's coming back to me too because I took this behavior course last year. It was like just it was bare minimum, but one of the things that they talked about which was like this repeated praise and it was like within a 10-minute time period like praising every little thing that this particular person like the person that's doing things that are annoying you or whatever over and over again and that that students get a chance to feel what it feels like to be successful
Mhm.
and even though that's and people are like that's so excessive and I'm like it's only 10 minutes of your life like just try it once and see like actually happens when you praise everything that they're doing and I'm like it might even be the fact that they picked up the pencil I'm like it can be
Yeah,
something as small as that
yeah, for
and
sure.
so I think that like that just made me think of that with the even with the cat story
Oh,
because
yeah.
yeah.
I've trained my cats to do so many different things. Like, I'm super weird. Squirrel can brush her own teeth. It's
Oh
crazy.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah. But I want to focus on the praise just a little bit. What I have found, now I mostly in my private practice am working with parents, but I've
Mhm.
spent a good bit of time inside the schools. I've worked across 4 different states
Mhm.
working with schools. And so I feel like it's true for teachers as well. What I've noticed is that if you say, okay, I really want you to focus on praise,
Mhm.
there's this cringe moment.
Uh-huh.
I think all parents
No, you're right. Because they're
and
like,
most,
I like the way you're doing blah blah blah. No,
yeah,
that's
well,
not
they
what I
feel like
mean.
they've done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In their mind, they've used praise.
Mhm.
And I would say 10 times out of 10 times, I can't even say that this is an always moment for me, that whenever I really, look through the history, observe the caregiver with the child, praise is not being used effectively. It just
Yes.
isn't.
Yes.
And yeah, and what you just described, that 10 minutes, we actually have literature to suggest just 5 minutes
Hmm.
using praise,
Mhm.
using intentional attention with the child is sufficient to totally change the relationship
Mhm.
and to teach the child increased attention, decreased impulsivity, increased language, increased emotion regulation, pretty much every single thing that you want a kid to
Uh-huh.
have, you can do it in 5 minutes, and praise is the overwhelming ingredient in that.
Wow.
And yeah, oh yeah, it's so easy. And this is the thing with the parents I work with. In the beginning, they always think I'm the crazy one. And they're
Uh-huh.
like, okay, you're going to really like change this really overwhelming difficulty that, we came to a child psychologist. Like, that's how big it was. We actually came out here to see you because nobody wants to see a child psychologist. I always tell them, dress as a child psychologist for Halloween is the scariest thing to ever. It really is.
Yeah, that's
And so
funny.
they come out there and I'm like, trust me, just do the little behaviors I'm asking you to do 5 minutes a day. After about 3 weeks, the parents come in and they're like, my child's a completely different child. And not only that, but the parents describe to me,
Mhm.
I feel so much calmer. I'm so relaxed throughout the day. like everything just feels so much better. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And this particular type of therapy is called parent-child interaction therapy. There is
Mhm.
a teacher version called teacher-child interaction therapy. And it's just wonderful. It's amazing. And all it is essentially a packaged version of really good behavior based intervention skills that are easy for parents to do and teachers to do because it doesn't take a lot of time out of your day, and it's
Yeah.
over reversal of those skills, so it makes it easy for you to do it across the day once you've reached mastery.
That's great. Where can a teacher get something like that?
So with the teacher child interaction therapy, the I'm forgetting the name of the university, but it's based out of California. I know the program comes out of there. You want to find a therapist who is trained in it,
Okay.
and so I'm pretty sure there's a website. I can find you the website so you could link to it.
Okay.
Um, and and you just want to have a therapist come in. So the therapist would consult with your school and
Mhm.
come in and do the training. And I think the training lasts like a week or two.
I'm telling you, my whole district needs this.
Oh, I think all teachers need this.
Oh, I
Trauma,
agree.
yeah, trauma and ADHD, for a variety of reasons, there's a lot of different child behaviors
Mhm.
that happen these days. And I know whenever I was a teacher, and I believe these days with teachers, we always say the first 2 weeks of school is just training the kids on how
Mhm.
to get through the
Yes.
day, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
If we had something that was this well researched, I mean, PCIT has
Mhm.
decades of research and it works for almost, if not every behavior in childhood.
Yet
And
I've been in school education for 20 something years and I've never heard of this. I think that's sad. We should
yeah,
know. Teachers should know this.
oh yeah, yeah. And yeah, because I mean, if you did that for the first couple of weeks of school, it
Yes.
would be setting up all the kids for success. And your school year, I mean, think about how much time you'd get back.
Yeah.
And not just that, but
Yes.
think about the stress
Absolutely.
level of the teachers
Yes, and the
across the
relationships
school
that you
year.
would build with your students.
Yeah.
I mean, I think teachers know about building communities and procedures and routines. I think they know that,
Oh,
but I think these specific things that you're talking about, like coming at it, because we do need to have more behavioral
mhm.
information in our tool belt, because
Yeah.
I don't feel like we do. And
Well,
that's what we're dealing, like that's what's stressing a lot of people out. So and it's right now, it feels like more than ever. So
yeah. You know, you said it at the very beginning that sometimes people have a negative understanding of the word behavioral.
mhm.
And those procedures and the rules you put up in your classroom, sure, they're behavioral, but
Mhm.
I think what PCIT gets to and what my work in acceptance and commitment therapy get to is a little bit beyond that, or pretty much a lot beyond that, which
Mhm.
is understanding the value system and child development and
Yeah.
aligning the behaviors to those. Because I think once a teacher is putting it all together in a system, and then in that situation, whenever you're really checking in with yourself and every single day, if a kid comes up with a new behavior just off
Mhm.
the wall, you know immediately how to respond. It's consistent with the rules of the classroom, it's consistent with your own value set, it's consistent with the value set of the school. And so in that way you feel calm and collected and you know how to
Yeah.
respond. But the child who's doing the behavior is probably going to look at you and giggle and get back in line because they're so used to the consistency between values and rules, and it's logical for them, that they were probably just acting out a little bit because they're silly kids.
Yeah.
But it probably wasn't that much of a big deal, the way that
Mhm.
some things can get out of line whenever we don't have this. That's the reason why I like focusing on values, because for me that's been the
Yeah.
missing piece. I
Yeah.
was trained on cognitive behavior therapy
Mhm.
and of course applied behavioral analysis, and for me that was the missing piece. That was the
Yes.
piece that kind of got to the
No,
soul of
that
that.
makes so much sense. So
Yeah.
much sense. Oh, I Leslie, I really appreciate this. Like this is I could talk to you all day. This is
No, me too.
so helpful. I really thank you for being here and for sharing your expertise. And where can teachers and parents, like where can they find more of you?
Sure. So my website is enildaclinic.com,
Hmm.
ENILDA clinic.com. And I have a page on there, the resource library, and I put out a video every week. I like to
Oh,
focus, yeah, I like to focus on child development. And I am putting together a course that talks about this topic of aligning values with parenting actions
hmm.
and your everyday just interactions with your kids. So I'm super
Yeah.
excited about it. It'll come out early next year.
That's exciting. That's very exciting. I actually think this is a course for teachers too.
Oh yeah,
I really
probably.
do.
Yeah.
I really do. I really think it would make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I think that's very exciting.
That's you know what? That's something that I hadn't really thought about, but I will look into that. I might actually add in an extra module just for teachers
Yeah,
because that's
I really think that that it would save. I honestly believe I feel like it could like literally save the profession for some people. I
yeah,
really do.
yeah. The research says that one of the, it used to be the number one, I don't know if it still is, but behavior management
Hmm.
is one of the biggest reasons that teachers end up leaving the profession. And I think that's so sad. That's something that we have such good um, data and
Yeah.
research that anybody could do behavior management if they were given the tools
If they were
for it.
given the tools. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that it just comes down to that. We're not given the tools in so many things, but in that too. And that's something that impacts your life daily. So I think that's huge. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun to chat with you.
That's how I feel. So, thank you for sticking around. I think that I feel like I learned so much. And I think that that was, it's such a different perspective. And sometimes it's hard for us to see that because we're in the middle of it and it's so hard. And there's, the rest of our kids and what are we going to do and how are we going to protect them? And it's a lot. It's a lot. You're doing a lot. So if you are feeling like you are having a hard time in this way, just be kind to yourself because it is a lot and you are expected to perform miracles sometimes. And that's not possible. And it's okay that it's not possible. It's okay that it's hard. We just got to get through. We got to get through these things together the best that we can. This one tired teacher is looking forward to a nice little snooze. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.